Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Troy.
And I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
We're broadcasting from the Cohesion Culture headquarters in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where even when it rains, the sun still shines.
You're going to hear real-time stories from leaders confessing their most crucial or recent experiences in business.
Learn what their cost them, steps they took to fix it, and how they planned
to not do that one again. All right. Good morning. Hello, listeners.
Yeah.
Well, depending on when you're listening.
That's right.
It's Ben-Jamin with Dr. Troy, and we are joined today with a good friend of mine, Charlynda Scales, going back 20 plus years. I know it doesn't look that even is a possibility, but we go back to college days, and I'm so excited that we're able to join and chat with you today.
Thank you for having me.
So one of the unique things that we like to do on this podcast is start with something we teach called connections before content. So before we get into any meat, we have a question for you. And as author of the book, Rock Bottom Has a Trampoline, we understand that there have been a lot of trampolines in your life. But what is something you like jumping on that isn't a trampoline?
I love rain puddles. I like when it's rain.
You have to come up with something new now.
I love that. Oh my gosh, you just
now with boots or do you have to be prepared, or will you just jump in them when you see them?
No, I need some boots. Some boots, but yeah, a good old fashioned just hop in there and let all the childhood glee come out.
I see that you have on a yellow jacket. So would you be jumping with red boots and a yellow slicker?
Oh, that would be a classic.
I thought so. So I just had to mention it, right?
Yep,
I mean, we've got a classic person. So here's a classic. Ben, what about you? What are you going to jump on?
Oh, my old self would be my jump to conclusions mat. But my current version would be I love jumping on a paddle board and spinning around and just testing my balance limits. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I love jumping on the metro, the underground, any of the train, anything that takes me on travel. That's what I want to jump on. So I want to jump on and go. You know me. I'm a traveler.
I love the interpretation of the question. So that's what we try to go for. Questions and how do you see different angles to everything? It's great.
And you can just have so much more conversation when you're talking about that than just simply like, hello, what do you do? What's your job, things like that. And I really like using this question, especially with the clients that I work with who have networking events. Oftentimes they go to a networking event and that's exactly the first question you get. And everyone is defined by who their job is or what their job is. And so it's just nice to really just break that mold. And oftentimes when people don't know that I'm doing a connection before content, and when they'll ask me, I'll say, I'm going to answer that in a minute, but first I want to ask you this. And I can ask them things like, tell me something about you that's not on your resume. If it's around the holidays, I might say something like, well, what's a tradition that you and your family, celebrate or do? What's your favorite sporting event or things of that nature, just to get people to talk about something other than the job, because it's really like, and it's really great networking. It has totally transformed my networking with individuals and folks that I teach this to. They'll come back and they'll say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's like we talked for like 10 minutes on something that wasn't related to my job. Because once I tell you my title and what I do you ever follow up with another question? No, likely not.
So in that vein, Charlynda, we'd love to learn about you, and we want to know identity questions. Talk about who you are as a person, identity, and then share who you are, big R, for roles you have, hats you wear, things like that. So we want to know you both sides of the coin.
Okay. Well, I wanted to say to Dr. Tony, that's really great that you have the philosophy, because people, I think today, are craving a deeper connection beyond the surface. And so many times I will leave a networking event, and if I didn't have the card in my hand, I'm usually trying to pick up some way of keeping that person in my mind, aside from whatever the professional thing was. So good job on that. I love that. I want to see more of that in the world. Who am I, Ben? Wow. it's evolved over time. So I would say I'm still a country girl. I'm still the country girl from Tennessee in my heart. I'm a believer and I'm a mother and I'm a disciple, just trying to make the dash matter. And by the dash, it's like when you arrive and when you leave this place, the dash. I'm just trying to make it matter.
Yeah, the to and the from.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually worked with a team building company called the Dash Group, and it's like trying to make the most out of that. So I love that quote. I love that mindset, and that's all we have. And it's all we're known for is that. The year, both years don't make as much difference. So
Yeah. And then I guess the big R roles. You know, I wear a lot of hats right now, and I'm okay with that. And I think that I've been given what I can handle. And what I can handle is being the founder of two companies. So I have Mutt Sauce, which is an all purpose, basically barbecue. It's a recipe I got from my grandfather. But I've had Mutt Sauce today, actually, is my 11-year anniversary owning Mutt Sauce.
oh,
So I've
wow.
had this company for 11 years. And then I started O Taste Marketing about halfway through that journey. So I've owned it about 5 years, marketing agency. Basically use that one for all my consultations and mentoring jobs. And then recently, this February, we opened up 6888 Kitchen Incubator, which honored the women of the 6888th Central Postal Battalion. But the goal, me and two other co-founders started O Taste Foundation 5 years ago to take care of food and beverage entrepreneurs and to help with economic development in our city by helping food and beverage entrepreneurs. So we provide things like the Kitchen Incubator, which is a physical space, but we also have a financial literacy program for food founders as well.
That's really
And
great.
then,
That's really great.
and then lastly, I guess you see the book. Thank you so much for your support. The book Rock Bottom Has a Trampoline. I'm an author and a speaker. I travel the country and do kind of what I'm doing here in Dayton, Ohio with the O Taste Foundation. I'm nurturing food and beverage entrepreneurs, but I really love the uplifting part of it. Like I see people's potential if I'm talking to you, and I'm picking up so many nuggets about your gifts, and I can almost see how far you can take it. And I want to help get you to that point. But a lot of times when I'm talking to them, they're at a rock bottom point in their life, in their career. Like, I have no money, Charlynda. I don't know what I'm going to do in this situation. They can't see themselves out of rock bottom. So I thought, well, maybe I'm doing people a disservice by all of the things that they see online that seem like good news overload, always a good story, or, you know, she's secured funds or something great. And I said, if I write a whole entire book about rock bottom, maybe that will do a better service than the, you know, all those stories of I'm a gajillionaire and here's the 10 steps to you can do it too. Like, I don't want to have one of those books. So rock
You have
bottom, rock bottom.
you have exactly stated what the podcast is all about, because we did not want to do a podcast where we said, oh, here's your get rich quick scheme, you know, like here's the thing that you do, and oh, you want to do these investment and double down on this and all that. And it just makes people who really want to start from rock bottom in your case, so we'll just continue to coin from there, but to really have a starting place that wasn't already at the top and not have a lot of exposure as to what they'd have to invest in it. And many of those examples and scenarios, and great that they are. So, I mean, we're not knocking them. I mean, I've listened to those podcasts, I've listened to that information, but we wanted something different. We wanted our listeners to be able to pick up on just some very key things that they can do, because for the most part, we're really speaking to individuals who are dissatisfied with their current employer. They're not getting the type of training and development that they deserve and that they should have for them to be able to grow, develop, and advance their career. And sometimes they're even passed over for promotion and they're not even sure why. So this entire curriculum that we have put together around becoming a cohesive leader is really driven to that individual. I mean, the purpose is to drive it all the way to them so that they can move forward from wherever they are, whatever place they're in. And for the listeners, I just want to give a little plug. The book is called Rock Bottom Has a Trampoline: How to Turn Every Loss into a Win with a Like-Hearted Mentor. And this is Charlynda Scales' book. And for those of you who might catch this on video, you'll see the book promptly displayed there. But for those of you who can't see,
well, so if Dr. Troy and I were only listening to you so far, and our listeners have only heard you so far, there's a hat that you've worn for a number of years as well. And they would right now, we'd only think that you are an entrepreneur and in the food and bev world. But you have another hat that was a big part of your life and currently still part of your life too. What was that?
So I've been in the military for almost 20 years.
Well, thank you for your service.
I'm happy to serve. I really am. And I think sometimes, because it's so second nature to me, I do forget to mention it because it's just who I am. I probably would have included it in I'm the mom, I'm a veteran, and it's a big hat, but it's also who I am. And I'm a 4th generation veteran, served in the Air Force. So when I met Ben at Clemson, I was going through the Reserve Officer Training Corps, which is you learn. So you're in training basically for the 4 years you're in college. And then when you get out, you become a commissioned military officer. So I went in, I was the first officer in my family. And I've learned a lot in the military. And I think that core values have shaped who I am, how I lead, the decisions that I make, the circles that I the people I surround myself with. I'm usually using those core values as my guiding metric.
And that is excellent. And it's one of the things that we teach and we provide in the book. It's, its own
your values,
own your values
and attributes.
And it really does. And when we talk within organizations, it's about making sure that people understand that the core values of the organization, you should be aligning with them. If you don't align with the core values of the organization, then you have to ask yourself, why are you there? So if they're doing things that you don't agree with, then you know that you have made that choice or decision. You just going along with it makes you as much responsible for it as for the executives who are making those decisions at the top level.
There's only so much you can do in the military, though. I mean, you have to love the major missions, but you can't you can't agree with every decision. So.
Well, okay, I get that for the military, but let's make it practical. That we're talking to people who are not in the military. Right. They may have had a military experience, but we're not talking about people dissatisfied with the military and getting passed over from promotion to the military. Our advice is for the individual worker.
It has control a little bit.
It has a little bit more control in what they say and do and how that works. And that kind of leads us to where we want to now learn from an experience. By the way, I just have to say that all that barbecue talk and all of that food talk made me think that maybe we should call this the Yum Yum podcast. But okay, but we'll hold off on that for just. Well,
I'll plug the Mutt sauce. I've bought the variety pack on a number of occasions there, so you can get different sauces. And I like some hot things, but I love the ghost pepper because it actually has so much flavor to it. So, anyways,
thank you.
We should be thinking about sponsors for this.
Okay,
anyway. All right. So our question then basically is, tell us about an experience that you've had either in your personal or your business life.
Wow. Oh, well, I have a whole book. I think they're all uh-ohs, but let me see if there's one that's, our listeners can walk away with. Well, one is I was a very trusting person, and I'm still a very open and trusting person. I'll give anyone the benefit of a doubt first. But sometimes I would put those relationships over smart business decisions. And that ended up getting me, frankly, screwed over a few times. And that's why it says like-hearted mentor, because one of the hardest lessons that I learned came from an old assistant. And when she came in, she wasn't someone that was agreeable. And that was the stipulation. Her husband recommended her and said, if you want someone who's basically going to agree with everything that you say, don't hire her. But if you want to go further in your company and hear an outside perspective, hire her and be prepared. So our first meeting, she said she needed to meet anyone that I dealt with Mutt sauce. And from the manufacturer to accountants to you name it. And then after a while, we came back together. I was like, okay, what is your assessment? And she said, you need to fire half the people that you work with. And I just looked at her like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I love all these people. I chose them all because I love all these people. She's like, that's the problem. Because you can't see through, because of the, kumbaya feelings you have, you can't see where the money is going. If the problem is there's money leaking out of your business and it is hard to operate this company, and I'm looking just at the bottom line of how much you're paying out to people, and I'm looking at your return on investment of what you're getting back to help you move forward, a lot of this money is not coming back in any form. It's just going out. And
that's interesting that she had that perspective.
Well, she didn't have the connection that I have built that was overriding me really looking at the number. I could see it. I saw the numbers all the time, but I was letting my feelings for some of these relationships that I had with people override the, I'll just end this contract now and keep it moving. I didn't want to do that. So I just had to sit back and watch her lead, watch my assistant lead. And she did it. It was very painful.
Wow.
Very painful.
Well, I was going to say, at first, I thought that she was the bad hire when you first started. Then it went down that route.
I thought that's where it was going.
And then you go this route. And was it a head in the sand type situation for you, where it's like you saw the numbers, and you had some inklings, but you just didn't want to deal with the hard situation? Was that part of it?
Yeah, I didn't want to cut off a relationship, but I thought that cutting the contract with the person would mean cutting the relationship. And she said, you can continue being friends with someone, you just can't work with them. And that was a lesson that she had to teach me as an entrepreneur. Like, you can fire people all day long and then go, have a beer. Like, just, it's okay. And so, yeah,
it is okay. But what it does is, though, we attach so much of our relationship based on, like, sometimes the roles that people play within that. I mean, I think this is a classic, like you're speaking about it from an entrepreneurial experience, this is that. But I automatically saw that in leadership, working inside of a company or corporation and trusting the wrong people and being faithful to the wrong people within an organization. I myself, in my early career, and it was the what we call Ground Zero podcast, talked about how I could get swayed by individuals who had these negative feelings inside the organization, that the organization leadership wasn't doing the right job, they weren't making the right decisions, and everything that we did, we questioned whether or not they did it well, and we would have done it better. And we just got ourselves in such a negative mindset that it can kind of spiral in that. And then later in life, knowing that you can separate the difference between someone you work with and someone that you want to be a friend with. And what I like to say is that for leaders, you have to be friendly to everyone, but you choose your friends then based on that. But you're friendly to people. I mean, that's what we want, is leaders who are friendly, who are able to help people get along. But I don't think that you have to be friends with everyone. And if you do decide to be friends and work with them, then I think you have to consider holding them to maybe a little higher standard than you might someone else, because your guard is going to be down.
And to some degree, I think it's an entrepreneur or as an employee, understanding the sunk cost. You've already done this certain thing and it's okay to move on because you've already done that. But then there becomes ego attached to the decisions. Well, I've made some mistakes. I'm not going to change course. This means I was wrong in the past. And, I'm glad that you got to that point. I've been doing businesses 20 plus years, and the recent businesses for well over a decade. And I've said that if I was to start over, I would be more successful faster because I know what not to do, but I know that there's things I'm hanging on to that it's just ego, sentiment, all these things attached to those decisions. And so I probably need, is your assistant still work for you for hire? Like, you know,
So she moved on. I gave her a glowing recommendation. And she started out as just a military spouse. And I think we learned a lot from each other because at the time she was trying to find her own identity other than just being a military spouse. And I was like, you got so many skills. Like once that first thing happened, I'm like, oh, I want to unlock you again. I'm looking at, she's got so many gifts she doesn't even realize. It's great.
that's so awesome.
But one thing she did teach me is that you probably have a great gift in your organization that is wrapped up in the pessimists, like the people who seem like they're cantankerous and they have an issue. Those are problem solvers. Those are your Lean Six Sigma guys. Those are the ones, if you empower them, because what makes them frustrated is they haven't been empowered to walk in that gift. So all they can do is complain. But if you empower them to make changes, oh my gosh. Even with our kitchen, you know, we just opened the kitchen in February, but we have 15 members who are all food founders. And I told my co-founders, like, we have to be open. The customer complaint and the member complaint are the roadmap to success. You have to listen to it because somewhere in there is the truth. And a lot of them, they're telling the truth. They just don't like the way it's coming out, but they're telling you something very valuable. And she was like that. So my assistant was like that. She would all day, she could find the problems. I was like, you find the problems and you write them down. And we're going to talk about the ones that we can use and do something with it. And then after a while, she started feeling like, you know, I'm really part of the team. You value what I'm saying. It's not just a complaint. You know, you're not treating me like I am a thorn in your side. So I was so honored to have her on the team. She eventually went on to get a pretty high paying position out of state. So, you know, and that was another thing. I was like, you could be making a ton of money.
And Charlynda, thank you for that, because what you just described in those few little minutes are the 3 strategic elements of cohesion that we focus on trying to ensure that individuals infuse cohesion into their values and into what they do, integrate them, also to organizations to do that. And by you sitting down with her, having her talk about the problems that could be solved or the problems to identify, you immediately included her. So inclusion is the first element. It's the sense of belonging. I have a place where I fit in, a place where I belong, a place where I can feel a part of something. And then you made what she did meaningful, because it was a matter of not only identifying it, but then we're going to solve them. And that was the second element, is having value. The individual has value, so they have meaning for it. Then the third element is collaboration or mutual commitment. And you worked with her to solve those, because you said in your speaking that we would sit down and decide which one of these we would be able to address and then figure out a plan from there. So realistically, that cohesive element, and the reason that I pointed out to you is you may have accidentally gotten it right, but now you can put a name to it. That when you are including people, you're making sure that what they're doing is meaningful, and you are allowing to collaborate in an area where you have these 2 things present. You need each other, and that you trust that people will tell the truth and do their job. And when those things are present, you have cohesion. And the great thing about it is cohesion is a causal phenomenon, meaning that it happens every single time it happens, performance occurs. So you can't always get cohesion, but if you do those 3 strategic elements of belonging, value, and mutual commitment, then you get cohesion, you get performance, and from that you get engagement. You get individuals who are helpful, active, vested, and eager. All of those things are so important in the relationship. So thanks for allowing me to at least sum that up, because I mean, just using your own words and your own example just makes everything that we do come to life even more. Thank you for that. Now, one of the other questions we want to ask you is, We know that this situation that you identified, your experience, cost you obviously money, because you said you talked about the numbers. Can you relate to, or what would you relate to would be some other things that it cost you?
Well, it did cost me a couple of friendships, I guess. What I had at the time. It's not to say over time we weren't able to reconnect. It wasn't the same, but at the time you're gonna lose those people in your circle. Your circle's gonna get smaller. But I think that the circle got more meaningful at the time. It became what I needed. And in that moment, I also learned, it was reinforced that you have to surround yourself with like-hearted people. Like-minded people agree with you. Your
Oh, wait.
ideas are awesome.
Oh, wait.
Mhm.
Like, how to turn every loss into a win with a like-hearted mentor, which I'm assuming is also like-minded mentor, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Except a like-hearted person is the one who will tell you no, is the one who will say your idea is bad. Um, but they will also meet you where you are and they share those core values. So you know that what they're about to tell you is coming from a place of love and mutual respect. And you feel that at your core, you know that what they're telling you is from love. Now, there have been times where you probably talked to someone and they've said, I'm telling you this from a place of love, but you feel in your gut that is not coming from a place of love at all. That's coming from a selfish place.
Yeah. It's like
And
I often say feedback is a gift unless it's delivered with a sword.
there you go. Yeah, exactly. So I want to be a like-hearted person in other people's lives, and I only want to surround myself with like-hearted people. I feel like it has served me much better professionally and personally. And that was the thing that it cost me. It cost me relationships. I would say the first chapter of my book, of course, my marriage ended because I said I'm going to surround myself with like-hearted people, and I did not feel in the moment that I was there with my ex-husband that he ceased to be a like-hearted person, and I had to go. In that moment, just split decision of, changing my entire life, flipping my own personal life on its head and walking out the door.
Yeah, that's well.
So there were some things that you did to immediately change that. What safeguards, filters, how did you take that advice of not having the personal mindset or connections to the business? Like, what did you do it so you didn't do that again? So what did you put in place to think about the business along with the belonging aspects that we're giving you with the words for now? But like,
Mhm.
what have you done to make it happen better?
I don't immediately jump into partnerships or contracts with people. I know in like Asian culture, they say like relationships, you could probably have tea with them 500 times before they will even start to discuss the business aspect of it. And that's really how I am too. If you come to me and you say, this is a great idea, we should partner, we should, um, something that's going to be an investment of my time, lots of my time or my money. Oh, this is going to be multiple conversations. This is not just going to be, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's just do it. Unless I know this person, really know them, the answer will be, let's talk about it. let's talk about it.
So, what are some things that you can tell our listeners that you use to help you get to know people? What are some of the things that happen? Either is it just a period of time? Are there questions that you ask? How do you get to that point?
Well, yeah, a lot of discussions with them. And in talking with them, I'm asking about their values. I will start asking them, like, what's going on with you right now? I want you to be comfortable. I want you to be open, but I'm also taking notes. I'm taking notes, and I do hear red flags sometimes. If they mention a bad business deal with another person, or if they insult someone as they're talking to me about wanting to do business with me, if they talk about people that they've worked with but they're just trashing them,
Yeah.
I might know them, and I might call them, and I will ask what their opinion is of that same business deal, and I will, there's two sides to the truth. So, and
Yeah.
especially in the military circles, my Rolodex is a lot bigger than people believe, or they want to believe about me. I love to be underestimated, so I use that a lot. I'm like, okay, I'm just a country girl. That's all.
Who can dial some, 4-star generals and all that stuff. So,
No, I think
So
that
I will, it's trust but verify, right? It's trust but verify.
good. I think that's helpful to have individuals. And the other thing that you said that's also important is a lesson I learned early in life, and that is, if you have to tear someone down to build yourself up, you weren't that good to begin with.
Mm.
And what you just said about the character of insulting, and another thing would be, my mom would also tell me, she says, how you speak about your, in this case it was girlfriend, soon later to be wife, but she said how you speak about her in front of others will tell more about the relationship you have with her than when you are just speaking to her. And it's, if you introduce her to your friends and you're not ashamed or you're not afraid or you're not whatever, it just seems like those relationships build from that. And I think that in the workplace, then we have an opportunity to ensure that we are creating meaningful relationships with people, that we're not just creating relationships too quickly because we happen to work on the same line, we work in the same office, or we do something, but we really begin to decide, these are people that I want to be friends with. So you're still friendly with everyone, but now you're picking and choosing your friends that has something more to do than just, oh, we happen to work in the same office 9 to 5.
Mm.
You have to look at the values of that individual. And oftentimes we get so many clues, but we're not clued into it because we are not thinking of it in that particular way. So
All right.
there's
I would
some.
say similarly, body language, right? So
Mm,
body language is often louder than words. And I use the example when I'm doing keynotes of the military retirement ceremony. At a military retirement ceremony, when they get up there and they're talking, the person who's retiring is talking. I intently watch the family. I watch their body language. I'm watching, their interactions afterwards with people, because it's one thing for everyone there is talking about how great this person is, the colonel, general, whoever it is. But if the family is sitting there like,
and
okay,
when she's putting her hand up to her mouth and kind of looking away, for those of you who
yeah,
can't.
they're trying to hide their expressions, or they're fidgeting in their chair, or the kids look checked out, that tells me that it's going to be a long after retirement. They don't seem excited to spend the rest of the time with this person at the house. Like maybe them being at work was the break that they had. And that tells me more. Same with in the office, right? Whoever's in charge, and tell me about your boss. If they seem like they're struggling, or the person doesn't want to, there's the person in the back who's like looking around like, I hope they don't call on me.
Right.
I hope they don't call on me. Yeah, tells you a lot.
So before Ben goes into our final question to wrap up, for our listeners, please define like-hearted in a way that people would understand what you mean when you say that.
Like-hearted, I would give an example of when I left my marriage, and to his credit, I would say at a promotion ceremony, um, I was always stuck with what my ex-husband said. He said, "Everyone knows the officer, but Charlynda knows the man." And so when I made that big change, it was I needed to move away from the man. I thought the officer was like the greatest officer I'd ever met, the smartest, the most talented one I'd ever met in my life to this day. I don't think I've met a sharper one. But when I was in that apartment with no furniture, with just my clothes, and I was still having to do interviews because I'd won a major award, a national award, not even 48 hours prior. It was on every channel you can think of, having to say, I'm blessed and highly favored. This is the greatest moment of my life, as I'm trying to hide the moving boxes from the screen. A lady called me and she said, I'm so excited to tell you that you've made the cover of this magazine. And I told her that I was not worthy. I went into all this diatribe about how my life has fallen apart and I should not be on the cover of this magazine. And she said, this is bigger than you. And in the most painful moment, I'm like, I'm very, very, like, my emotions are as raw as they can get right now. And you are telling me that this magazine is bigger than me. And she said, well, I'm trying to uplift a whole, like, globally, military spouses, to put a spotlight on how amazing they are, that they do more than just hold posters at airports, that they do more than just, have dinner on the table at 7 or whatever it is. Military spouses are men, because there's women out there fighting for our freedom. Military spouses are entrepreneurs. Military spouses are helping run organizations on base. They're fundraising. They're doing all kinds of things in addition to caring for the family and caring for the mental well-being of that service member while they're away. And we need to do a better job of telling that story. So I need you to get your butt up and accept this. Let me use your story about how you were a military spouse and an entrepreneur. And you will be on the cover of Military Spouse magazine, and it will be all over the globe. I started with, I just left my marriage and you want to put me on the cover of Military Spouse magazine.
Yeah.
And that is a like-hearted person who understands that what they're about to say is very painful, but it still needs to be said because they care about you and they see something in you that is greater than what you see in yourself.
I love that.
That's incredible.
Love that. All right, Ben, bring us home.
Wow, this is going to be a tough one. You live to be 100. Would you rather have a sharp mind or a fit body?
Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, this is just a shell anyway, right? I mean, you know who I'm thinking about right now? Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at his contribution to the world. His body, his body just continuously deteriorated, but his impact continued to increase and still does. So let me keep my sanity.
I would also go with mind. I love the idea of having mobility, and I've seen firsthand how much a rusted body affects people. But I've experienced, the non-sharp mind age, and I'd rather have the mind as well.
Oh, absolutely. For me, for those individuals who know my backstory, my mom suffered from dementia and Parkinson's disease, and dementia eventually took her from us and stole all those memories. And so definitely the mind would be it, because we lost mom so many more years before she actually passed away, because we weren't able to relate to her. She wasn't able to keep her mind focused on things. And so, yeah, and I think sharp mind. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a nice body here. I mean, I'm just going to say that, just for the sake of those people who are going, oh, come on, give me a break.
Good thing everybody's listening and not watching.
I know, seriously. But I would think
what he just did,
Yeah, but anyway. I'm thinking that mine.
Yeah. You could be active, you can do things, but if you're not with it or not having conversations, I totally get there. So anyways, I've got a list of questions. We just love ending something like that.
I love
but
it.
make thought provoking. So, all right, folks, we are done for this session with Charlynda Scales.
And we are going to close out by, first of all, asking how can people reach out and connect with you if they would like to do that?
Oh, well, you can go to charlyndajean.com, Jean, I guess CHARLYNDAJEAN.com. And I try to put all my projects there. So I'll send you to that one central location. You can learn about Mutt Sauce, the book, speaking tour, Taste Foundation, the whole thing.
All right, super sweet. And for those listening would like to get in touch with Ben or myself, you do so at info@cohesionculture.net. And as we close out today, one of the attributes or the characteristics that we always think about is how we learn from others and how we can really take that information and make it powerful for ourselves. So just remember, you don't have to know everything. You just need to be teachable.